Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. In Afghanistan, President Ashraf Ghani has sworn in for a second term in Kabul, but his rival Abdullah refused to recognize the inauguration and held his own swearing-in ceremony as a president. Meanwhile, two blasts were heard when the inauguration ceremonies were underway, prompting some to flee. Last month, the Election Commission declared Ghani the winner of the presidential polls held in September. But Abdullah accused the government of fraud and vowed to form his own parallel government. The parallel inaugurations come despite US efforts for an inclusive government in the country ahead of inter-Afghan talks. Under the terms of the agreement, the US and its NATO allies will withdraw their troops within 14 months. In return, the Taliban will hold talks with the Afghan government. In a statement, the group said peace talks with Kabul are unlikely to take place next week due to the threat of parallel governments in Afghanistan. The Taliban urged the presidential rivals to focus on ending the war. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says stability in Afghanistan will not only bring relief for Afghans but also for the residents of Pakistan. Speaking in Peshawar, he expressed heartfelt wish for the lasting peace in Afghanistan. He said the Doha Pact will benefit the people of both the countries. The Prime Minister said he will make efforts to open the Afghan border to promote trade. Pakistan has foiled a major terrorist attack during an operation in the country's northern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. In a press release, the military's media wing said forces killed two terrorists in the operation on a terrorist hideout in the Di Khan city. The Inter-Services Public Relations said the militants opened fire on forces as soon as the operation was launched. It said Colonel Mujibur Rahman embraced martyrdom during the gun battle with the terrorists. It said during sanitization operation, a large cache of arms and ammunition was recovered from the terrorists' hideout. Colonel Mujibur Rahman Shaheed hailed from district Astor in Gilgit-Baltistan. Indian forces martyred two more civilians in the Shopania district of occupied Kashmir. 34 civilians have been martyred in the occupied valley in the last 2 months. Occupying troops targeted the youth in Khajapura Reban area of the district during a cordon and search operation. Indian forces blocked all entry and exit points of the area and conducted a house-to-house search. The valley is reeling under crushing curfew and the communications blackout by New Delhi for the past 218 days. In India, after Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh police have planned to put up photos of anti-citizenship law protesters in Meerut city. Putting their lives at risk, the police will display names and addresses of 51 protesters on billboards across the city. Talking to media, the police said notices worth 2.8 million Indian rupees were sent to the protesters for damaging public properties in December. They said further legal action, such as attachment of their properties, will be taken if they fail to deposit the due amount. Meanwhile, Delhi police have arrested a Kashmiri couple, accusing them of instigating protests against the new Citizenship Act. The police alleged the couple was inciting Muslims to take up a violent struggle against the law and the government. The US military says 2 of its soldiers have been killed in clashes with ISIS militants in central Iraq. It did not reveal the identity of those killed, but said the soldiers were accompanying Iraqi security forces. In 2017, the US declared victory against ISIS, announcing it has cleared all the urban centers of the militants. Coalition forces have since focused on conducting airstrikes and surveillance to rout sleeper cells. The US says it did not veto a draft resolution on Syria's Idlib province at the United Nations Security Council on Friday. State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus says there was no blocking of anything surrounding a Syrian ceasefire. Ortagus said the US will continue monitoring the situation in northwest Syria. She said Washington will consult with Turkey on arrangements for a lasting ceasefire. On Friday, diplomats claimed the US blocked a UNSC statement supporting a ceasefire between Russia and Turkey. On March the 5th, both the countries signed an agreement on a ceasefire and joint patrolling. In Libya, 2 people have been killed and 5 others wounded in an attack using rockets and mortar bombs by Khalifa Haftar's forces in Tripoli. The UN-recognized Government of National Accord says the weapons hit a market in Al Juma and Rada areas of the city. It said the government forces destroyed a Haftar ammunition depot forces in Souk al-Ahad in response to the attacks. Libya has been torn apart by a civil war between the GNA and the Libyan National Army since April last year. Despite multiple efforts and ceasefire agreements brokered by the UN, both the sides have been unable to agree a truce. Sudan's Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok has survived an assassination attempt targeting his convoy in the capital Khartoum. State media says Hamdok has been moved to a safe location. The attack happened at the northern entrance to Koba Bridge near the Prime Minister's office. Police quickly cordoned off the area. No group has yet taken the responsibility for the attack. Hamdok was appointed to head a transitional government after the overthrow over the long-time President Omar al-Bashir last year. More countries have reported a rise in the number of coronavirus cases as the world scrambles to contain the outbreak. Iran has reported 49 new fatalities, raising the death toll to 237. In Italy, 6 inmates have been killed and 50 others escaped in prison riots after the government curtailed family visits over antivirus measures. This report has the details. The latest figures from China and South Korea suggest the virus might be slowing in Northeast Asia, but countries elsewhere in the world adopt drastic measures to try and stamp out the infection. Iran has temporarily released nearly 70,000 prisoners due to the coronavirus outbreak. Iranian Health Ministry says the total number of cases is now over 7,100. Meanwhile, Italy put travel restrictions on 16 million people to contain the outbreak as the number of the cases rose to 7,300. With 366 deaths, Italy is the worst hit country in the world after China. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the UK has also risen to 319. Over 3,800 people have been killed since the virus emerged in China's Wuhan city in December. Seoul says North Korea has fired 3 short-range projectiles into the EC a week after launching 2 similar missiles. In a statement, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff says the rockets flew 200 kilometers to a maximum altitude of 50 kilometers. The statement says the missile launch does not help bring peace to the Korean peninsula. Japan's cabinet secretariat detected multiple projectiles, but none landed inside the country's territorial waters. It said Pyongyang's repeated launches pose a serious threat to international security. This comes 2 days after the North threatened to take action to protest the condemnation of previous exercises. The trial of the suspects involved in shooting down of Malaysia Airlines flight over Ukraine has begun in Amsterdam. It is now over 5 years since flight MH17 was shot down, killing all 298 people on board as it flew over eastern Ukraine. Prosecutors say 3 Russians and a Ukrainian helped organize the Russian missile system used to shoot down the civilian aircraft. A Dutch-led international joint investigation team spent years collecting evidence before issuing arrest warrants last year for the 4 suspects. Countries taking part in the investigation agreed in 2017 to hold trials in the Netherlands under Dutch law. Attempts to create a UN-backed tribunal failed in the face of Russian opposition. Russia does not extradite citizens, and the Kremlin has questioned the legitimacy of the international probe and the independence of the court. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has submitted a request to delay his corruption trial scheduled for March the 17th. Netanyahu has been charged with bribery, fraud, and breach of trust in 3 separate criminal cases. Netanyahu's lawyers submitted the request to the state attorney's office, citing technical reasons for the proposed delay. They argued that certain evidentiary material has not been delivered to them yet, requesting the opening court session to be delayed for 45 days. The request came as Netanyahu struggles for his political survival after failing to win enough seats in the 3rd election held in the country in the past 12 months. In the U.S., Democratic presidential hopefuls Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders have secured crucial endorsements from prominent black supporters. California Senator Kamala Harris endorsed Biden, while Sanders won the backing of civil rights leader Jesse Jackson. The rival candidates are competing for African American support, a key demographic in the fight for the party nomination. Voters in 6 states go to the polls on Tuesday, a week after Super Tuesday elections dramatically reversed the two men's fortunes. Harris said she was backing Biden because she believes he can best unify the country before the crucial November elections against Donald Trump.
So I just wanted you guys to know, because you've been supporting me for so long, and I just wanted you guys to know I have decided that I am, with great enthusiasm, going to endorse Joe Biden for President of the United States. I believe in Joe. I really believe in him, and I have known him for a long time. One of the things that we need right now is we need a leader who really does care about the people and who can therefore unify the people. And I believe Joe can do that.
The US and Brazil have signed a defense agreement to allow the joint development of military capabilities between the two countries. The agreement was signed by Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro on his visit to the US Southern Command. In a statement, Brazil's defense ministry said the pact was also signed by the head of the Miami-based command. It came a day after Donald Trump hosted Bolsonaro for a dinner at a Mar-a-Lago, the US president's Palm Beach, Florida resort. Brazil is not a member of NATO, but the United States has listed it as a major non-NATO ally.
It's a great honor to have the president of Brazil with us. He's a terrific man. He's done a fantastic job. Our relationship has never been closer, and it's great to have him here.
More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In Pakistan, 21 people have lost their lives after a passenger bus fell into the river Indus in the northern Gilgit-Baltistan region. Government officials say 4 others were injured in the accident. Speaking to the media, a Gilgit-Baltistan government spokesman said the dead include 2 children. He said 2 of the injured have been flown to Skardu's combined military hospital in a Pakistan Army helicopter. The spokesperson said 9 bodies have been recovered from the river. The vehicle was on its way from Rawalpindi to Skardu. A large avalanche has killed 6 people on Dachstein Mountain in Austria. Police say the victims were walking in snowshoes on the mountain when the incident occurred. In a statement, the police spokesman said the victims are believed to be from a sports group based in the Czech Republic. Backed by 6 helicopters, mountain rescue services are searching for other survivors. Police said that bodies were brought to the village of Hallstad for identification. In January, 60 residents escaped another large avalanche in the town of Ramasau am Dachstein. Maisie, a wire-haired dachshund, has won the Best in Show at this year's Crufts Dog Show in the UK. The 4-day event hosted 26,000 dogs, including 3,000 from the overseas. More on this report.
The annual Crufts Dog Show has just ended for another year, but not before naming the 2020 Best in Show. The grand finale was a bark-off between 7 finalists. A wire-haired dachshund named Sylvie Trademark, known to her friends as Maisie, came home the winner.
Well, this is certainly a perfect example of the breed. And tell everyone here why Maisie is so special, and also how many miles she must have covered on those little legs today.
Her proud owner, Kim Malkamet, said winning the Best in Show is one of her dreams.
Wow, what else can I say? It is pretty stunning. It's the sort of thing you often dream of when you're preparing coats, but you never quite think you'll get there.
The event dates back to 1891 and is one of the largest dog shows in the world.
Oil prices have suffered historic collapse since 1991 after Saudi Arabia slashed prices and shocked the market by launching a price war against Russia. US oil prices crashed by over 33% to $27.59 a barrel, while Brent crude plunged over 30% to $31.54 a barrel. The failure of the Vienna meeting between OPEC and Russia left the oil industry shell-shocked after Moscow refused to cut oil supplies as proposed by OPEC. Saudi Arabia announced massive discounts to its official selling prices for April as it prepares to increase its production to over 1 million barrels per day. The kingdom currently pumps 9.7 million barrels per day, but has the capacity to ramp up to 12.5 million barrels per day. Oil prices have dived sharply this year as the new coronavirus outbreak has led to diminishing demand for crude. For more on this, we are joined by Dr. Manoj Takin, independent global oil and energy consultant from London. Thank you for your time. First of all, with the US oil prices plunging a historic 33% and the price war raging, what do you see where it is headed now?
Well, this is a repeat of the history in November 2014. The same story happened, and Russia did not agree to cooperate with OPEC and Saudi Arabia, and oil price collapsed in 1915-16. It was like a standoff between OPEC, Saudi Arabia on one side, and Russia on the other. Really, the supply and demand of oil in the world is a moving thing all the time. It is changing. Obviously, we all know that because of the coronavirus and the reduction in economic activity, demand has fallen precipitously. So there has been a drastic fall in demand for oil in the world in the last month. Whereas supply cannot be turned on and off that quickly. It has to be agreed. And to balance the supply and demand, the producers have to get together and reduce their production in order to balance and give enough oil that the world needs, that there's a low demand. And it is this agreement, although they all know that it has to be supply, they have to reduce supply to defend the price, but always says, okay, you do it, that country would do it, OPEC would do it, Saudi Arabia would reduce its supply and defend the price of oil, and I will try, a producer, and I will try to maximize my production and get the best, highest revenue. But this individual position, an opportunistic position, that does not work. All producers, President Putin and others, have to put politics aside. Of course, it is the balance of politics and real economics and real business.
Dr. Takin, oil-producing countries' market share race in denting the Gulf economies big time. But do you think it could add an indirect stimulus to countries importing high-priced oil to run their economies?
Well, the price of oil is falling, and of course this is a boon, and to the oil importers. The net oil importing countries are happy. They would be happy. Even in the United States, of course, the U.S. economy is benefiting, as well as countries like India and Pakistan and developing countries, in Far East countries, Japan and others, Africa and so on. They're all benefiting. So as to the benefits of the low price, it is good for the importers. But of course, if this whole situation, which is, if it continues and the producers lose revenue badly, then they will not purchase from Europeans and from Japanese and so on either. If OPEC countries, Middle East countries lose revenue, they wouldn't. So it is a balance that has happened in the history, as I said, 1986, 1998, 1999, 2015, 16. And at the end, they all have to come to their senses and realize that they can't push each other and twist each other's arms, because they will all suffer anyway.
And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News. Thanks for watching.